These are 7 Honda motorcycles that dealerships are trying to offload quietly and fast. Some failed to connect with buyers, others never found their niche, and a few were flawed from day one. Stick around. Number 1 is Honda's most unexpected flop. Number 7. Honda DN01. There are bikes that redefine categories, and then there's the DN01. Rather than evolving a segment, Honda took a futuristic leap with this machine, one that looked better suited to a concept floor than a dealership showroom. The DN01 was Honda's attempt at reimagining city motorcycling. Underneath, it runs a 600cc liquid-cooled V-twin that pushes out 61 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. Honda fitted it with a dual-clutch transmission, aiming for a twist-and-go riding experience. Unique underseat storage, a full-bodied integrated fairing, and a long, low-slung chassis made the whole thing resemble something straight out of in theory, it had all the makings of a perfect urban ride. This identity crisis turned off traditional riders who didn't want a bike that resembled a Star Wars speeder. Even younger riders, usually more open to bold design, didn't bite. To many, the DN01 felt lifeless. No gear shifts, no clutch, no rumble, just a quiet dash and a smooth wave of torque. Despite its modern look, the ride itself left much to be desired. The low seating felt off, bar reach was awkward for tall riders, and the front end gave little feedback. Honda set out to deliver a stress-free commuter, but ended up creating a bike that felt emotionally sterile. Add in a steep MSRP of $8,999, and it's clear why sales tanked. For that money, riders could pick up something with more character, a stronger following, and plenty of aftermarket support. That made the DN01 a very tough sell. Braking comes from a single front disc with a 2-piston caliper and a rear disc, adequate for city speeds, but not much more. Suspension is handled by standard telescopic forks up front and a Pro-Link shock under the seat, tuned more for comfort than performance. At 470 pounds fully fueled, it lands in the mid-weight range, but the stretch design makes it feel heavier and longer than it is. The seat height is a low 31.1 inches, while the wide fairing gives it a squat, grounded look, but that same layout adds to the odd ride feel and disconnected styling. Dealerships quickly saw trouble. Inventory started piling up. Even with trade-in incentives, buyers weren't biting. The DN01 just couldn't carve out a space for itself. Honda eventually pulled the plug, but units still lingered on showroom floors, unloved and unsold. With no real fan base and almost no used market demand, dealers struggled to clear them out. And if confused design and muddled identity weren't bad enough, just wait until you see the next bike. Honda tried to dial up the cool factor, but ended up making it heavier instead. Number 6. Honda Fury. At first glance, the Honda Fury checks all the boxes for cruiser appeal. Stretched out frame, low profile, aggressive rake, and chrome everywhere. It was Honda's most audacious attempt at delivering a factory-built chopper with all the custom bike attitude, but none of the maintenance headaches. Powering the Fury is a 1,212cc liquid-cooled V-twin that cranks out 72 horsepower and 110 pound-feet of torque. It uses a shaft drive, great for reliability, but despite all that, the bike never really clicked with buyers. Honda aimed to combine classic styling with modern engineering. What they ended up with, though, was a motorcycle that failed to satisfy either group. When it hit the market, the Fury was supposed to offer a chopper look without the hassle of custom builds. Its lines were clean, and it had presence, but it lacked the raw energy hardcore chopper fans crave. To Harley riders and custom builders, the Fury felt inauthentic. It was too polished, too tame, too well-behaved. It had the look of rebellion, but not the spirit. Meanwhile, traditional cruiser fans hoping for comfort and everyday usability didn't find much to love. Many riders also reported fatigue from the stretched-out ergonomics, especially on longer rides. Braking is handled by a single front disc with a twin-piston caliper and a single-piston rear. Fine for relaxed cruising, but underwhelming for a bike of this size. Suspension-wise, it uses telescopic forks up front and a hidden rear monoshock to preserve the hardtail look, but the ride suffers over rough pavement. Weighing in at 663 pounds wet, the Fury sits firmly in heavyweight territory. Unfortunately, it doesn't offer the plush ride or performance expected at this weight class. At $10,499, it landed in the same price range as far more capable cruisers. And that was a big problem. Other brands like Harley-Davidson, Indian, or even Yamaha's Star Series offered stronger performance, better comfort, and higher resale value. The Fury also lacked customization support, which is a death sentence in the chopper world. Riders love to personalize their bikes, but the aftermarket never really embraced the Fury, leaving owners with limited ways to make it their own. Dealers across the country had high hopes. They expected the Fury to become a hit with style-conscious cruiser fans. But instead, it sat on the showroom floor. For Harley loyalists, the idea of a Japanese chopper didn't add up. And for newcomers to cruisers, the Fury's stance and handling made it feel more like a showpiece than a rideable machine. Despite its eye-catching design, the Fury never connected with an audience. It was too much for some, not enough for others, stuck in a no-man's land between flashy custom and functional cruiser. And if this bike left you scratching your head, the next one tried to juggle two identities and dropped both. Number 5. Honda CTX 700. When Honda introduced the CTX 700, the aim was clear: build a motorcycle that combined confidence and comfort. The idea was to create a bike as approachable as a car, but with all the freedom of two wheels. It's powered by a 670cc parallel twin engine, delivering 48 horsepower and 44 pound-feet of torque. It also came with Honda's optional dual-clutch automatic transmission. The CTX positioned itself as the ultimate beginner-friendly cruiser, simple to ride, simple to own, and even simpler to live with. But in its quest to appeal to everyone, the CTX ended up exciting no one. Everything about the bike leaned into accessibility. A low seat height at 28.3 inches, swept-back handlebars, and forward foot controls all mimicked cruiser ergonomics. Around town, it offered smooth takeoff and solid low-speed balance, great for nervous new riders. However, the engine lacked. The automatic transmission only added to that disconnect, taking away the involvement that makes riding feel alive. And then came the price tag. Starting at $7,799, the CTX was significantly more expensive than many other beginner bikes, including Honda's own Rebel series. Riders paid more for a bike that offered less customization, less performance, and little growth potential. Where the Rebel 500 or CB500X gave you a solid starting point with room to evolve, the CTX felt like a final stop, a motorcycle you'd outgrow before even finishing the payments. The critics weren't kind either. Most reviews called the CTX forgettable. The styling was bulky, bland, and lacked either the sharp edge of a modern cruiser or the clean lines of a classic. There was no standout design language, just generic shapes that didn't spark emotion. And in a market where individuality matters, that was fatal. On the mechanical side, the CTX 700 came with a single disc brake up front and one in the rear, using basic two-piston calipers, just enough for mellow commuting. Suspension included conventional front forks and dual rear shocks, built for comfort rather than sport. Riders often complained that it was sluggish in corners and underwhelming at highway speeds. At least it behaved, because the next bike on our list was loud, wild, and still couldn't win fans. Number 4. Honda CB1000R. Some bikes burst onto the scene with raw intent and razor focus. Others, like the CB1000R, arrive with no clear direction and end up forgotten. Honda marketed the CB1000R as its flagship naked machine, a blend of daily usability and high-level performance. Under the hood, it's got a 998cc inline-4 engine, making 143 horsepower and 76 pound-feet of torque. It features Honda's selectable torque control system and a single-sided swing arm for extra flair. Honda dubbed it a neo-sports cafe, aiming to fuse retro cafe racer aesthetics with modern muscle. But the execution confused people. Classic fans thought it looked too sharp and angular. Sport bike. Enthusiasts found it too upright and reserved. It landed in no man's land stylistically, and the price didn't help. Starting at $12,899, it was more expensive than rivals offering either more emotional appeal or higher performance. Buyers comparing it to Yamaha's MT-10 or Kawasaki's ZH-2 often went elsewhere, drawn by bolder looks or stronger tech. Even within Honda's own lineup, it was overshadowed by more affordable models like the CB650R, offering nearly as much thrill for significantly less cash. Despite its engine specs, the CB1000R lacked a compelling reason to buy. It didn't have the animal. Number 3. Honda Grom. When the original Honda Grom hit the scene, it was an instant sensation. Tiny, inexpensive, packed with character, and endlessly fun to ride. It earned a cult-like following, especially among new riders and urban commuters. But then came the Grom SP, short for Special Performance, a premium version meant to elevate the platform. And that's where things went sideways. The SP runs the same 124cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine found in the standard Grom, making 9.7 horsepower and 7.7 pound-feet of torque. It's paired with a 5-speed gearbox, offering basic engagement. But the performance was virtually unchanged. What the SP really brought to the table were cosmetic tweaks, bronze-finished wheels, custom graphics, and a reworked seat design. While those details made the bike look a bit sharper, they didn't do much to improve the riding experience. Under the skin, it remained the same basic machine that fans loved. Not better, just slightly different. The braking system is straightforward. Single hydraulic discs at the front and rear, more than sufficient given the bike's lightweight. Suspension includes an inverted front fork and a monoshock out back, tuned just a bit firmer than the base model, but still within the same ballpark. It weighs 227 pounds wet, with a seat height of 30 inches and a 1.6-gallon fuel tank. Perfect for quick city hops and tight garage spaces. But the big problem? Price. At $3,099, the Grom SP pushes into a territory where buyers start cross-shopping with used cruisers like the Rebel 500. Number 2. Honda NC750X. Some motorcycles aim to thrill. Others aim to make your commute easier. The Honda NC750X tried to split the difference and ended up feeling like a two-wheeled appliance. Under the fairing, it packs a 745cc parallel twin engine that produces 58 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. One of its most notable features is the dual-clutch transmission, allowing for either automatic shifting or push-button manual control. Honda also added practical touches, like an underseat fuel tank and a large, lockable storage compartment, where you'd normally expect the gas cap. On paper, it's a commuter's dream. Fuel-efficient, comfortable, and easy to ride. And sure, it checks some major boxes. It's user-friendly, frugal on fuel, and built to make daily riding effortless. But here's the issue. The NC750X feels more like a utilitarian tool than a motorcycle made for enthusiasts. The dual-clutch system, while clever, strips away one of the most fun aspects of riding, shifting. Number 1. Honda NM4 Voltus. Some bikes are ahead of their time. Others feel like they came from another planet, and not in a good way. The Honda NM4 Voltus falls squarely into that second category. Honda introduced the NM4 as a bold, genre-defying machine that looked more like something Batman would ride than a typical motorcycle. Inspired by anime aesthetics, the Voltus had a visual identity like nothing else on the market. But while it turned heads, it didn't turn many into buyers. At its core, the NM4 shared its engine with the NC750X, a 745cc parallel twin that made 58 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. It also featured Honda's dual-clutch transmission, giving riders the option of automatic or manual shifting. The concept, future tech meets urban practicality, but the execution, not quite there. The styling was the most polarizing thing about it. With a front fairing that looked like a stealth bomber, side panels that stretched out like a sci-fi hovercraft, and a massive LED headlight cluster, it didn't resemble any other bike in Honda's lineup, or anyone else's. The seating position was more cruiser than sport, with a deeply reclined saddle and wide-set bars. It also had a backrest that flipped up to double as a passenger seat. A neat trick, but more of a gimmick than a game-changer. While all this might have made sense in a design studio, on the street it just didn't connect. The NM4 was too strange for traditional riders and too tame for adventurous ones. It was trying to be a cruiser, a scooter, and a futuristic concept all at once, and ended up being none of them convincingly.